Yes, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good
Yes,
afternoon, sir.
previous class we had been learned that body mind relationship. Body and mind inseparable, should be balanced and synchronized. Imbalances cause diseases. Communicable, non communicable, as well as mental illness. So, this is a fundamental knowledge for various therapies, medicine, to prevent the diseases as well as curative, therapeutic measures. Today we are going to deal with genetic and behavior. What is mean by genetics? What is mean by behavior? Genetics nothing but characteristics transfer from one generation to another generation. Behavior, actions, detail going on. Behavior genetics. It is a separate discipline to deal with relation between relation between behaviors and genetical factors. Genes code for behavioral traits. Psychological processes. Those interact with the environment. It is a specialized discipline study inheritance of behavioral traits. In 1869, Francis Galton published first work, Human Behavioral Genetics. We can see that F. Galton Next, we are going to systematically study genetics, study of genes and heredity. Variations in organisms. Inheritance, passing heritable units called genes from parent to children. Genetic code, DNA, RNA. Genetic code, DNA, RNA. Behavior, actions, reactions for stimuli. Role of genetics in human behavior. In developmental psychology says that growth and development determine genes. Developmental psychopathology, various mental illness from parent to child. Psychiatric genetics. So this is other separate discipline, study about what are the mental illness from generation to other generation and provide solution for various mental illness. It means psychiatric genetics. Parenting style, which means the care given to children. That behavioral traits derive from generation to generation through genes and chromosomes. Then human relationship, undue genetic relatedness. Undue means some relationship, is difficult to. Same kind of characters derive from parent to child. Then other some diseases, physical illness, including dental, carrying aging factor. Some children grow quickly, but some others in the teenage as well as look like small and late growth. So that is genetic factor. Then substance abuse, some disorders, alcohol use, parents use, the children may be same abuse, alcohol as well as substance. Sexuality, sexual behaviors, cognitive abilities, thinking, learning, knowing. Then personality is mainly personality, the character, how to walk, talk, which is determined by genetic code influenced by heredity. Next section, heredity and environment. So this section we are going to deal with which is determined behavior of the individual, whether heredity or environment. Nature and nature controversy. Many study findings support to heredity, but other studies support to environment. Detail going on. Traits. Genetics and environmental factors. Heredity and environment interact to produce their effects. Genes act depends on the environment, which means if a person having a own character, to display that character need favorable environment. Is that environment is not there, unable to, cannot express or display their characters. So example, personality, emotions, etc. So is heredity and environment is essential. Heredity is fundamental, basic. Environment is need for display that character. Effects of environment depends on genes which they work. Highly heritable environmental variables can have a large impact, which means is favorable environment having, there is no heredity, less impact. Favorable environment is hereditary factor is synchronized or having and display good characters. For example, this is one of the classic example, Japanese Americans. As we know that Japanese are so short and thinny, but Japanese Americans are taller and heavier than who are grow in Japan. Second friends who are grow in Japan, which means it's a research finding, okay? Same age group, friends, one person living in America, other person living in Japan. But Japanese Americans become taller and heavier than who are living in native Japan due to environmental factors, mainly food habits, etc. Human development determined by heredity and environment. So this is a finding. This is an finding. This is various research finding. human development determined by both heredity as well as environment. Individual differences, personality and behavior, nature and nature controversy. So this is only overview regarding this, then explanation going on. Heredity, genes and chromosomes. Meaning, heredity is passing of traits to offspring from its parents or ancestor. Definition: heredity is defined as passing on physical or mental characteristics from one generation to another generation. This is one of the hemophilia, transfer from parent to child disease. Then environment surrounding us, mainly physical, biological, socio-cultural environment surround us. Definition: environment, sum total of surrounding, natural forces, conditions for development and growth. As well as danger and damage. Role of growth and maturation. Variables of behavior in individual. Female ovum, male sperm. Genetic materials from parent to parents. Biological characters like color of eyes, skin, height, weight, like this. Psychological characteristics such as intelligence, temperament, etc. As well as factors of biological maturity. Noticeable behavior and anatomical growth. Prenatal begins to experience his environment. So human development is equal to mathematical representation. Human development is equal to heredity into environment. Multiply heredity multiply by environment. Then behavioral genetics. Heredity is the foundation of behavior. Study genetics factors determine behavior. Next, genetic framework. Genetic framework we will be genetic framework. Genes, physical, psychological traits to one offspring to another through genes. Look at this: RNA, DNA. Look at this picture. Role of DNA: long-term storage of genetic information. RNA means RNA, ribonucleic acid. The role of RNA: transfer genetic code. Creation of proteins from nucleus to ribosome. Male and female, 23 pair of chromosomes, totally 46. Both male and female, first 22 pair same chromosomes, but 23rd pair determines sex. Symbol XY normal male, symbol XX normal female. Abnormality determine disorders. Look at this: sex determination. In human beings. Genetic function: absence of chromosome, occurring variety of mental retardation, lack of specific genes cause phenolaninemia, result accumulation of acids in the brain. Tuner's symptoms for female: visual agnosia due to lack of specific gene. Present extra chromosomes, which means more than 44. Down syndrome, trisomy, 3 chromosomes. Then experimental studies: genetic influence, behavioral characteristics. First study, twin study. Second, selective breeding. Third one, inbreeding. Twin studies says that, look at this. Two twins are compared with their fraternal twins. comparison of traits, behaviors. Intelligence partially determine heredity. In case of identical twins, separated life, environmental influence being minimal. So identical twin having more impact of genetic factor. Then experiment evidence genetic influence mental disorders. Look at this picture, twins. Look at this. Types of twins, identical twins, one egg is fertilized, then split two identical embryos, only one egg and sperm. Then second, fraternal twins, two separate eggs, but only one sperm, forming two embryos. Third one, semi-identical twins, one egg is fertilized, two sperm. So this knowledge is very important for nursing. We should be identify which type of twins. Look at this. Fraternal, identical twins. Fertilized in only one egg and spread into identical. Fraternal means like this. Some more detail about egg split into two identical. And different. So this you will learn detail about in the other maternal health. This is other type of twin. Look at this picture, twins. Second, selective breeding research. Experiment on selective behavior of breeding animals, mainly on robot. Conducted this study, mainly animals like Mersey bright, Mersey dull. Consistent environment, dull, rate poor at learning. Conclusion, heredity contribute to the learning ability. Look at this inbreeding. Experiment on animals. Third one, inbreeding, involving inbreeding strains, animals related to sublink one another. Different type of experimental method was used. Conclusion, heredity play a significant role in behavior. Inbreeding study. These genetic abnormalities. Role of environment. A study on the rate of two groups, enrich environment, improvise the environment. Finding, enrich environmental group, greater learning ability, more efficient neural transmission. Hence, heredity and environment passing equal role. Role of heredity in environment, study findings, high heredity potential. With arrived in poor environment, his IQ will be lowered. And person with low heredity and potential is bright up in stimulating environment, so slightly improvised IQ. So according to this finding, this not only this IQ, heredity determine the behavior, is also environment, stimulating environment also influencing. In short, high heredity potential as well as stimulating environment need for high IQ, high learning level, abilities, and other characters. Standard. Role of heredity in emotion. Emotion make living colorful. Study indicated that emotionality, at least to some extent, is inherited, being shaped or shaped by, influenced by environment. Significance of heredity and environment. Relative role of heredity and environment. First, heredity from passing from most of human traits. The environment factors influence to responsible for final shaping traits. Enrich environment improvise the traits, behaviors. Fourth point is that learning ability and intelligence determined equally by heredity and environment. Fifth, individual differences also influenced by heredity and environment. Then study supported to environment. For example, height up here. Suspectable environmental influence. Example in study here, American, Chinese. Already we had seen one study that in the overview, the Japanese, American Chinese, California coast. Split inbreeding were average taller than native Chinese. We know that Chinese is so short, but in American Chinese are so height and weight due to the environmental factors. Both all the environment, physical, biological as well as socio-cultural environment influence determined support to environment. And next study is that in New Delhi, delinquency behavior, crime, child crime, resulting antisocial environment due to every child become normal, but due to the criminal environment a child become delinquency. The difference between social heredity and biological heredity. Biological heredity means automatically transfer through genes, biologically, Social heredity means acquire, to learn, through learning, process of learning. Then heredity and health status depends upon heredity, whereas diseases transfer from parent to child. Hereditary diseases, mainly diabetes, hypertension, cancer, stroke, heart diseases, Down syndrome, then depression, schizophrenia, cystic fibrosis, sickle cell anemia, autism, inflammatory bowel syndrome, obesity, and Huntington's disease. Then gene therapy nowadays is a modern therapeutic method. Medical research, copying of healthy genes to unhealthy missing genes to treat various disease, genetical abnormalities. Then role of heredity and environment and health and sickness, mainly contributing equal role to determine health status of individuals, communicable diseases and non-communicable diseases, by equally contribute by heredity and environment. Brain and behavior we will learn next class. So students, in the examinations, this is very important question, heredity and environment. Okay? Yes, students, this is in the examination. This is very important question. Okay, heredity and environment, most important. This is overview. Then you should be write about what is meant by heredity. Then write about environment. Then should be think about some studies and supported to environment as well as heredity, and should be think about genetic framework, DNA, RNA, which mainly should be concerning, DNA is a long-term storage of genetic information, but RNA synthesizing it. Look at this, creation of proteins to carrying information from one generation to another generation. Then sex determination. Also these genetic disorders due to over number of genes as well as less number of genes. So last study finding is that we are healthcare professionals, nursing professionals should be think about our role. The diseases, various type of diseases, generation to generation. But study finding says that some genetic factors can overcome through environment. So what's our role? As a nurse, what do you feel about it? If a patient come in the hospital with the diseases, you maybe assess the generation having for example, diabetes, having generation to generation having the diabetic problems. So as we know that is only one factor, but environment can create to change that and suppressing that genetic character can prevent to cause the diseases. So as we know that mainly the various clinical setting, if these type of diseases, patient come into hospital and only think about the previous generation having, don't think about, and they manage it. But we need to think about reality of the factors. If change the environment can cure the genetic disorders, can reducing the genetic disorder as well as preventing the genetic diseases. Okay, so this should be every nurse should be conceptualized, which is very useful for us for client oriented care and better therapeutic communications and therapeutic these services to every types of client in our hospitals, in the hospital setting. So do you have any question about this? Mainly for examination, this is very important question. Every examination asks this 5 mark question, sometimes brief answer 7 mark question as well. Any clarifications? So this slide not seen in this. Okay. Every cell has chromosomes, chromosomes and composed of genes made up of hereditary materials known as DNA. And I would like to ask question. Anjali Biju.
Yes, sir.
Can you explain about role of DNA?
Transmitting information from one generation to another generation.
Yes, which
Long-term
long term? Yes,
storage.
excellent answer, Anjali Biju. Thank you for your answer.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Abarna GS. Abarna GS. Anu M. Suresh. Anu.
Yes, sir.
Yes, can you define environment? Define environment.
Sum total of all surroundings
Yes.
of a living organism,
Nice.
including natural forces and other living things.
Excellent answer. Okay, thank you, Anu. Wonderful response.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, students, do you have any clarifications? Any clarification you have, feel free to ask to me. Just watch, I will be publish this video. Just watch, repeatedly watch, and any clarification you can comment to me, okay? Comment section. I will be answer immediately. Okay, thank you everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, sir.
Okay,
Thank
enjoy.
you,
Thank
sir.
you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Neha.